everyone, my name is Ellen and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to play We Don't Talk About Bruno from the Disney movie Encanto on the guitar. So stay tuned if this is something that you'd like to learn. And guys, before we jump into it, I did want to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Black Mountain Picks. Black Mountain Picks are thumb picks that use an innovative spring design to hold the pick securely to your thumb. I've loved using these recently because not only are they super comfortable, affordable, and durable, but they don't slide or flip around on your thumb like other thumb picks I've used in the past. These picks fit multiple playing styles and are perfect for when you want to alternate between picking and strumming with ease. That makes them great for beginners and professionals alike, no matter what stage you're at in your guitar journey. Best of all, you'll get fast shipping and awesome customer service with every purchase. So if you're interested in trying these out for yourself, make sure to check out the link in my description and never lose another pick while playing your guitar again.
It's a heavy lift with a gift so humbling. Always love the and the family fun.
Alright guys, so let's go ahead and jump into the overview. I am going to classify this tutorial as more of an intermediate level just because there are a few things that are a little more tricky in this one, but go ahead and make sure your guitar is in standard tuning and put your capo on the first fret if you want to play it in the original key. On top of that, I am going to show you 7 different chords that you'll need to know to play this song, and 3 of them are bar chords, so if that's something that you're struggling with, make sure to tune into my bar chord mini-series. Beyond that, I have 3 different strumming pattern variations to show you, as well as 3 different picking pattern variations to play through the song, and you can kind of choose which one you like the best to play through the whole song, but I'll explain all of that in those sections. So let's go ahead and start off this tutorial by going through the chords.
He told me that the life of my dreams would be promised inside.
Alright guys, so I've zoomed in a little bit so we can take a closer look at these chords. Like I said, there are 7 shapes you're going to need to know for the whole song, and we're going to go ahead and start out with our G chord, which looks like this and sounds like this. After that, we have our first bar chord, which is our F sharp chord, and that looks like this and sounds like this. Next, we have our B minor chord, which is another bar chord, and that looks like this and sounds like this. After that, we have our E minor chord, which looks like this and sounds like this. Then we have our D chord, which looks like this and sounds like this. Next is our A chord, which looks like this and sounds like this. And then the last chord you need to know, which is only played once in this whole song, is our last bar chord, which is G minor, which looks like this and sounds like this. And those are the only chords you need to know to play this song. Alright guys, so make sure to pause the video and take some time to practice memorizing and transitioning between these chord shapes. This song does move really quickly, so the easier it is for you to transition between chords, the easier it will be for you to pick up the rest of the song. But once you have those under your belt, we can go ahead and move into the strumming patterns that I want to show you for this song.
Bruno, I really need to know about Bruno. Give me the truth and the whole truth, Bruno. Isabella, your boyfriend's here. 7 foot.
Alright guys, so we're going to start off simple today, and our very first strumming pattern is just 1 single down strum on the beat for every chord change. This is a great way to kind of familiarize yourself with the song, get used to those chord transitions on the guitar and things like that, and I actually do like to use it in my cover as well. So anytime we do the chorus where we say we don't talk about Bruno, that's where I like to use this 1 down strum pattern. So let's go ahead and practice that. If you put your G chord on, that's the first chord in the song, we're just going to strum down once. We don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno. Alright? One simple down strum is all it takes. Again, this is a really great one to use if you're more of a beginner and need a little bit more practice with those transitions. I would go ahead and recommend doing the whole song with just the one single down strum. Really take notice of where those words are, going to be changing and where those chords will be going. If you're more of a visual learner and need something to look at, I do have a guide here available on my Patreon page that you can print out, and it has all the chords and lyrics and everything you need to know on there. So make sure to check that out if you're interested. But from there, let's go ahead and jump into the second strumming pattern. So our second strumming pattern is not going to be much harder than our first. All we're going to do is take this single down strum and double it and then add a little mute at the end. I like to use this in various parts throughout my cover, but you could use it to play through most of the song, like all the verses and things like that as well. So let's go ahead and go through an example. I have some chord progressions listed here on screen, and all we want to do is do a double down strum and then mute our strings afterwards for each of these chords. So let's just go through an example. We're starting with our B minor. You would go down, down, mute, and all I'm doing there is taking the side of my pick hand and just kind of slapping the strings there to stop them from ringing. All right, if you want to, you can make it sound a little more percussive by giving it a little bit extra force, which I think sounds pretty cool. So anyways, all you want to do is take each chord listed here, and we're just going to do a double down strum with a mute afterwards. So starting with our B minor, we've got down, down, mute, E minor, mute, F sharp, E minor. And you can use this for all the verses. It was my wedding day. We were getting ready and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. All right? So like I said, you could use it for all the verses and things like that if that's, what you're comfortable with. The place I love to use this is actually during the bridge. It'll be just like how we just practiced it. He told me my fish would die and the next day, dead. He told me I'd grow a gut and just like he said. All right, so that's where I actually like to put it in my cover, but again, you could use it for different parts of the song if you want to. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the third strumming pattern. Now, our third strumming pattern is a little more complicated than the other ones, but trust me, it's not that bad. As you can see, it's down, up, mute, down, up, and it's gonna sound a little something like this. Alright guys, so now that you've kind of heard the rhythm, let's go ahead and put our chords to it and just practice the motion. So let's just hold down our G chord, since that's an easy chord to hold down. What you're going to do is go down, up, and then mute your strings, then come back and do down, up, down, up. Alright, and that's the whole pattern. Down, up, mute, down, up, down, up. So go ahead and pause the video if you need to and practice that motion a few times. Once you get the motion down, we just need to get it in rhythm. So I'll count us off. Let's do this in rhythm. 1, 2, ready, go. Down, up, mute, down, up, down, up, down, up, mute, down, up, down, up. Down, up, mute, down, up, down, up, down, up, mute, down, up, down, up. Now before we put some chord progressions with this, I just did want to point out that I actually like to switch chords in the middle of this pattern. So I'm going to put a little vertical line kind of halfway through. So you'll see on the left side we've got down, up, mute, and then on the right side we have down, up, down, up. And this vertical line is going to represent where we're going to be switching chords. So let's go ahead and take the first verse as an example. We have our B minor to E minor, then our F sharp to E minor. And what you would do is play the first chord, which is B minor, on the left half, down, up, mute. Then you go to your E minor for the second half, down, up, down, up. So let me just go ahead and go through an example. We'd have B minor, down, up, mute, to E minor, down, up. Similarly, we'd have F sharp, down, up, mute, back to E minor, down, up, down, up. So when you speed this up and put it in rhythm, you'll kind of hear the song start to come together. We've got B minor, E minor, F sharp, E minor. hopefully you could kind of hear that rhythm, that like kind of Spanishy sounding rhythm come together. So let's go ahead and practice this together and put in these chord transitions. I'll count us off. 1, 2, ready, go. Down, up, mute, down, up, down, up, down, up, mute, down, up, down, up, E minor, F sharp, E minor. You got it. It was my wedding day. We were getting ready and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. Alright, so hopefully you can kind of hear the song come together. And with that strumming pattern, I would recommend using that pattern throughout the whole song, like you definitely can. But I actually like to play most of this song with a finger picking pattern. So now let's go ahead and jump into the picking portion of this tutorial.
Ready, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. Clouds allowed in the sky. Bruno walks in with a mischievous grim thunder. You telling this story or am I? Sorry, mi vida go on.
Alright guys, so I've zoomed in again to show you these picking patterns that you can use to play through this song. But before we begin, let's just kind of go over something that I like to do in my tutorials, which is number my strings. So you'll see here my low E string is 6 and it goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 all the way to my high E string. It makes more sense in my head to think of my strings this way, so hopefully it does for you as well. But for the whole like picking portion, I will be referring to these strings as numbers. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our picking patterns. So the first picking pattern I wanted to show you is very similar to our last strumming pattern in rhythm, but basically this is the pattern that I would suggest using for the majority of the song. So let's go ahead and just break it down chord by chord. We're going to start with our B minor chord since that's the first chord that we're going to use this picking pattern for. What I want you to do is use your thumb to pick the bass note of each string. So for B minor, our bass note is our 5th string. Then I want you to take your pointer, middle, and ring finger, put those on the top or bottom 3 strings, whichever one makes more sense to you, so G, B, and E. And what we're going to do is just pick those together at the same time. Alright, so you're going to go bass, top 3, and then we're going to end the whole thing with a mute. Alright, so again, you just want to take your hand, slap the strings. I usually do this with kind of a fist motion. You could also do it with the side of your hand. Whatever you want to do to kind of stop those strings from ringing. So the whole thing would be bass, top 3, mute. Alright? So once you can get that kind of pattern down, all you have to do now is go through the rest of the chords. So let's go ahead and go to our E minor chord next. This is going to be the same thing, except your thumb's going to move to the 6th low E string, since that's the bass note of this chord. So for this, we would go 6, 3, 2, 1, mute. All right, so B minor is 5, 3, 2, 1, mute. E minor is 6, 3, 2, 1, mute. Next, let's go to our F sharp chord. With our F sharp chord, our lowest string is going to be our 6th string again, so you don't have to move your right hand. We're going to go 6, 3, 2, 1, mute. All right, so again, if you're going to play this through all the verses, those are mainly the chords you need to know because we would go back and forth between them. So we'd go B minor, E minor, F sharp, back to E minor. All right, and that's kind of mostly what you would use this picking pattern for. So we just want to speed it up a little bit to get it at tempo. B minor, E minor, F sharp, E minor, all right? And something I'll do on the E minor chord specifically is the second time you play it in a round, so let's call a round B minor, E minor, F sharp, E minor. On that second E minor, what I like to do is play the top 3 strings again. So for that last E minor, I'll go bass, top strings, mute, but then I'll come back and play the strings and mute again, okay? So let me just play it in tempo, it'll make more sense. So the whole little round goes like this. Alright, so hopefully you can kind of hear the rhythm coming together again. So we've got B minor, E minor, F sharp, E minor twice. It So if you want to, you could totally use this for the whole song, but quickly before we switch to the next picking pattern, I did just want to show you the other chord. So if you want to use this pattern during We Don't Talk About Bruno, No, 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 you will need to know your G chord as well. So let's go over our G chord. For this one, the bass note is that last low E string, or 6. But again, your top 3 fingers are going to be on the top 3 strings. Pick those together at the same time, come down with a mute. So for G chord, we've got 6, 3, 2, 1, mute. So if you wanted to, you could take that for the choruses. We don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno. All right, so you could use it for there, but like I said, I like to use it mostly for the verses. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our second picking pattern. Now this one's gonna be a little bit more slow and not as rhythmic because I like to use this where Isabella comes in and Dolores, like kind of in verse 3 where it changes a little bit, goes a little bit more major. That's where I would use this picking pattern. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So right here is when Isabella comes in. He told me that the life of my dreams would be promised and someday be mine. So here we've got different chords. We've got D, A, B minor, and G. And the way I would suggest using this is, let's just start with our D chord since that's first. What you want to do is use your thumb to pick the bottom note again. So for D, that's our 4th string. Then again, with these 3 fingers, you're going to keep them on the top 3 strings, and we're just going to pick them one at a time individually now instead of all together. 3, 2, 1. All right? So our D chord would be 4, 3, 2, 1. Next is our A chord. The bass note is our 5th string, so that one would go 5, 3, 2, 1. Then we've got our B minor chord. Again, that's 5, 3, 2, 1. And then our G chord would go down to the 6th string, 6, 3, 2, 1. All right? And the reason I like to use this is because in this part of the song, the whole song kind of changes a little bit. So what we want to do is make that part sound a little bit softer. So let's go ahead and put the chord progressions on screen. We're going to go from D to A to B minor to G. And you're just going to pick this pattern one time through for each chord. So we've got D to A to B minor to G. He told me that the life of my dreams would be promised and someday be mine. All right? So again, the whole kind of mood changes there in the song, and so that's the pattern that I would suggest using for that section. But again, before we move on, let's go ahead and go through some of the other chords that you might want to use to play through. So for our E minor chord, again, the bass is our 6th string, so you would go 6, 3, 2, 1. F sharp would be 6, 3, 2, 1. And G minor would be 6, 3, 2, 1. All right? So if you wanted to use, this pattern for the rest of this whole verse, you could. You will need to know those other chords. All right, sorry guys, I'm starting to lose my voice, so let's go ahead and go into the third and last picking pattern that I want to show you. This one is kind of a variation of the second picking pattern that we just went through. What I like to do is when Dolores comes in with her part of verse 3, we're kind of building the song a little bit there. So what I'm doing is just taking the existing picking pattern that we already went through, and I'm going to add kind of an ending to it, okay? So with our D chord, for example, our initial picking pattern was 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm just gonna, once I get down to the bottom of the guitar, I'm just gonna go back up. 2, 3, 4. All right? So D would be 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And on your right hand, you're using the same fingers for all of these. So we've got thumb, pointer, middle, ring, middle, pointer, thumb. And that's going to be true for the rest of the chords as well. So for A, we've got 5, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. B minor is 5, 3, 2, 1. G is 6, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? If you want to, you can also know the rest of the chords. E minor would be 6, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. F sharp would be 6, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And G minor would be 6, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right? So again, like I said, I will kind of take picking pattern 2 when Isabella comes in verse 3, and then I'll take picking pattern 3 and do that halfway through where Dolores starts singing. So let's just kind of go through an example of where I would make that switch. In verse 3, we are doing the end of Isabella's line, so she goes, "He told me that my power would grow like the grapes that thrive on the vine." Then Dolores takes over, and here's where I would kind of stretch out that picking pattern to picking pattern 3. He told me that the man of my dreams would be just out of reach, betrothed to another. All right? So hopefully you can see like where it kind of builds a little bit, but of course if you wanted to, you could use either picking pattern 2 or picking pattern 3 for this whole little verse here. But with that being said, those are the picking patterns I wanted to show you for how to play this song. Alright guys, so I know that we just went through a lot of different variations of ways to play this song, but the reason I wanted to show you all of these different methods is because I love to just kind of combine and mix and match them throughout the song to make the guitar part sound a lot more interesting. So that's what I'll be doing in my cover. I'm going to be switching back and forth between picking and strumming and all that stuff to make the whole thing sound a little more dynamic. So with that being said, let's go ahead and play through the song.
When your prophecy is read, he told me that the life of my dreams would be promised and someday be mine. He told me that my power would grow.
1, 2, ready, go.
We don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno. But it was my wedding day. It was our wedding day. We were getting ready and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. No clouds allowed in the sky.
Want to have fun jamming to the rest of this song with me? Then make sure to check out my Patreon page where you will unlock access to this as well as all my other fast track and play along tutorials. I'll make sure to put a link in my description box below as well as in this iCard up here. Alright guys, that does conclude today's tutorial. Thank you again to Black Mountain Picks for sponsoring this video, as well as all of my patrons over on my Patreon page for supporting the channel. And a special shout out and thank you to my top patrons, Luis, Mark, Pam, Tony, Cynthia, Joe, and Paul. For additional perks to learn faster and easier than ever before, make sure to check out my Patreon page where you can print out guitar guides, play 2 backing tracks, and even get private lessons with me, so I'll make sure to link that down below and make sure to check that out. But that does conclude the video, so thank you so much for watching. I really hope it helped. If it did, make sure to give me a thumbs up down below as well as subscribe to my channel. That way you never miss out on any other new tutorials. Here are my social media sites in case you'd like to follow me on any of those. That's just where I do fun things like behind the scenes looks at what's coming up. I'll poll you guys on what you want to see next, and I'll even do giveaways on there a few times a year, so make sure to check that out. But before I lose the rest of my voice, I do want to just end the video, so thank you so much for watching. I hope it helped, and I will see you next time. Bye!
Never should have brought up Bruno.